going on YouTube? Tyler here, aka Mafta, and I'm going to be giving you my first YouTube video on VALORANT, the closed FPS shooter from Riot Games. I've had it for a couple days now. I've been playing it a lot. I've learned a lot of neat tricks, and I have a lot of tips to give out to people. And in this video, we're going to be covering the gun spray patterns and what is the most optimal thing to do when it comes to the shooting in VALORANT. Alright, so getting it started. I know my camera is kind of blocking it, but right here you start off with the classic gun. This is equivalent to the Glock. A lot of the gun terms will be more familiar to people who have played CSGO and are understanding CSGO terms. For people who aren't familiar with CSGO, I'll try to explain it as best as I can. If you have any questions, just let me know. Starting off, like I said, very much just like the Glock, regular shooting. That's the left click. However, if you right click, you'll get the burst. The burst is a lot more useful for, you know, if you're walking somewhere and maybe someone catches you off guard, you can use the burst. It'll just take 3 bullets off of your magazine there. It's really not that bad. It's really good turning the corner tool when you're on the pistol rounds. Obviously you don't really use the pistol too much later in the games unless you somehow run out of ammo with your main weapon, which isn't too typical because games in VALORANT don't last too long. They're only 1:45, I believe, rounds, so they go by pretty quick, and there's very little use to the pistol unless you're on an eco round. Next, you have the Shorty, which is a small shotgun, little secondary to have. I don't see many people using it. I've seen maybe 2 people since I started playing use it. It doesn't seem like that much of a useful gun. It seems like it's another gun that you can use to hold the sight. Maybe if you're turning a corner and someone happens to be right there. Very unlikely. I still think you might lose that trade just because I feel like the accuracy is much more in favor of a small pistol. Plus, you're going to be spending $200 for it. At that point, you might as well just buy some of the abilities, which I will go over in another video. Next, we have the Frenzy. Frenzy is a really popular semi-automatic pistol. I'll show you the spray pattern here. A lot of people use this if they're solo holding a site or they're holding an area that is super popular to rush in the start of rounds. You can use this, and though it doesn't do a lot of damage, it does have the insane fire rate where you might hit a couple people, you might damage 2 or 3 people, maybe 4, maybe the entire team, depending on what angle you're holding. So it may not kill, but it will do a lot of damage and help your team have the advantage even if there's a man down. So next you have the Ghost here, which is equivalent to the USPS in CSGO if you are familiar with that. Unlike CSGO, you cannot take the attachments off. Weapons that look like they have little silencer attachments on them, those are actually part of the guns. You can't right click to take those off. A lot like the other guns also, you can't right click on these. These are very much left click only. It does really good damage. It's pretty accurate. From pretty far range, it's about 88, which isn't a one-shot, but from far range it's 105, which depending on if the enemy has bought armor or not, which most people don't, it will one-shot with a headshot. Next, you have the Sheriff. This thing is pretty much a guaranteed one-tap. This is the equivalent to the Deagle in CSGO. It's just got really strong firepower. It even has penetrability, so if you shoot through something that is able to be penetrated, it'll come out on that other side right there. It's a really neat thing that they did for this game is over here on the right side of the screen you can see if it's a semi-automatic or fully automatic. It'll tell you the fire rate of the guns, and it'll even break down the damages to where how much damage it'll do depending on where you hit them. So from here you'll see from 0 to 30 meters it'll be 55 to the body, which is pretty much 2-tap dead at the start of the rounds, again depending if they have armor or not. Straight to the head is 160, that's an instant kill. Leg is even as a 47, which isn't bad at all. For 30 to 50 meters, which is if they're pretty far away, you know, if you're all the way over here, you're just tapping them from around there. Damage is still really good. It's 50 to the body, 145 to the head, which is again dependent on armor, almost a one-shot kill. It's even a one-shot kill even if they have full armor over here, which only gets you over to 150 in your full HP. Moving to the SMGs, you have the Stinger here. SMGs in this game aren't bad. They can be a little changed in my opinion if they would. The damage on the SMGs isn't really great. They are very situational. I would only recommend using SMGs really on an eco or a half buy, and depending on your angle, if you're sitting somewhere, you could catch people off guard just because of the higher fire rate coming from above. And I mean, if you're getting, I think it's 2 bullets to the head will be a kill instead of a 1 like most guns. But it's not the greatest because if you're actually in a trade with somebody, I think it's about a 70 to 80% chance that you will lose that trade if they have an actual rifle. The Spectra, which is pretty much the same gun except it has a silencer. It's the same thing. Moving shotguns. Shotguns aren't as bad as CSGO shotguns. Obviously there's the 1 in 100 shot that you can land in CSGO where you're actually shooting someone with the shotgun from really far away and you'll just get a headshot and they'll die. This doesn't happen in that game. It does shoot pellets that far, but because of the range as they break down over here, I mean, if you're shooting someone from that far distance, you're hitting them for 9, 18, 8. Like it's not gonna work. This is very much just like I said for the SMGs or other guns, where if they're creeping around a corner and they just happen to be there, you know, they'll just pop right back over and you can probably just get that lucky shot on them and kill them. Judge, another shotgun. Obviously this is pretty much just like the if you're from Apex, the EVA. It's just an auto shotty. It's not a pump. I think this is a little bit better just because you can shoot more quicker than the actual pump. The pump obviously does more damage, but I think if you're actually going in trades with people, you have a better shot of winning with the Judge than you do the Buck. The Bulldog, it's a, I believe it's a semi-automatic. I don't use this one yet. So this, but if you ADS here, it turns it into a burst. Burst isn't bad, but I'll get into that in just a moment. And we're going to keep moving with the guns and go over to the Guardian here, which is a single tap no matter what. It will always be just a single fire, one shot, one hit, that's it. Even if you hold it down, it won't repeatedly like tap, tap, tap. It won't do it. You have to click for each shot. The Phantom is the equivalent to the M4A1S in CSGO if you are familiar with the game. If not, it's pretty much just a silenced rifle. The damage isn't bad. It's pretty accurate. I wouldn't say it's awful. It definitely comes down to a preference of how it feels when you shoot. I, for one, use the AK in CSGO way more, which in this game is the Vandal. It just feels good when you shoot it. It's equivalently... I would say it's pretty much the same as the AK actually. I don't think there's very much different. It's almost a copy paste. The only thing that's different maybe is the spray. This one kind of goes off to the side sometimes to where the AK is very much up down spray. At least the last time I played CSGO. It's been quite some time since I played CSGO. But it does transfer over. The skills are a lot more useful. This game is pretty much CSGO in Riot's form. Going over to the snipers are going to be the easiest thing to transfer from CSGO. The Marshal is quite literally the scout. You can do crazy jump shots with it just like in CSGO if you time it just right. You even have the Operator, which is literally the op from CSGO. It feels exactly the same when you shoot it. The drift patterns are the same. Still, you don't want to jump shot with it. I know there's some people that say you can straight jump shot. It's not accurate. Like you saw the bullet go way over there. There are people who can do it a little bit more accurately, but I don't think it's worth it. It is very much more for holding angles, just like the op. You will get those picks. It is literally the same gun. Going over to the heavies, the LMGs in this game are a lot different than CSGO. In CSGO, the LMG was pretty much seen as some troll gun where you just use it to troll, and of course there's always the one guy who goes crazy with it and makes it look crazy. but in this game, it actually is pretty good. I don't think it's OP or needs to be nerfed. I think it is actually really okay just where it is. So I'll let you see the recoil here. It pretty much goes side to side. Obviously, I'm aiming a little low. If someone's head's up there, they're getting lit up with multiple headshots. I'll go over the Odin real quick before I cover these. So this will be the Odin. As you can see, spray patterns are pretty much just center. Like, it doesn't go crazy. It's not going all over the place. It is really solid. I've done a couple plays with the LMGs where they actually turn out to be pretty useful in times, because someone will be full rushing a site and you'll have a weapon that has 100 bullets, and you can empty 100 bullets into the entire team and you'll get an ace. Like, it does happen. It is not some freak accident or the enemy team being really bad. Like, it is fully capable of holding a bomb site by yourself with just an LMG. The Ares, not too much. I think if you're going LMG, you might as well just get the Odin. It is much better. It does more damage, has a higher shooting rate. It's just the overall better gun. Going over the armor, you have light shields and heavy shields. Light shield is the equivalent of buying just a Kelvar in CSGO, to where if you buy heavy shields, it's going to be the equivalent to buying Kelvar and helmet. Shields are 400 currency for Valorant. Heavy shields are 1,000. It's almost always important to make sure you have shields, unless you're doing a light buy and you just do like something like maybe Ghost, Light Shield, and cover some of your abilities. You might have like 100, 200 gold left over. And even right here over on the left side of your screen, down here for now, you'll see right here on this left side, it'll tell you how much money you have, and right there it'll tell you the minimum that you will have next round. So right here you can use this to calculate how much money you will have in the next game. Another cool thing that you can do here in the menu is sell your weapons. If you hover over it in the actual menu, if you have it, you can just right click and you'll sell it and you'll get the money back. So if you accidentally buy something you didn't want, you misclick, you can sell it right back. You'll get all of your money back. It doesn't take a percentage or anything. You can even do the same thing if you happen to buy a heavy shield and you're like, actually, you know what, next round I'll only have this much. That means I won't have enough if I die here to get maybe some of the abilities that I'll need, rebuy my shield, rebuy my weapon. I won't be able to do that. So what I'll be able to do is buy maybe a light shield and a stinger, or maybe I'll be able to do light shield and a ghost, because I don't want to spend all that money on an SMG, but really I want to use that 1,000 currency towards getting a rifle. Or maybe that 1,000 difference will be what it takes for you to get an operator and a heavy shield. So
can someone get this?
There's a lot of things you can take into account using the menu here. Another neat thing is if you press both the right and left click on your mouse, you can request
Can someone
weapons.
get this?
Someone can then go to the menu. Your teammates will pop here on the left side, and it'll say so-and-so has requested a gun. If you have the currency for that, if you're rich, you can just buy it for them. The game is very heavy on communication, so if you don't have a mic, it is not impossible to play, though it would be really recommended. You can do the cheesy,
I'm buying.
you know, let your teammate know that you're buying.
Anyone need anything?
You can let people know that you have extra credits if someone actually needs a buy. Maybe they're sitting there going through their menu and they're like, I don't know, maybe I need to save, maybe I need to blah blah blah. Like, if you say that and they're like, well, if they have extra money and they're willing to buy, why not?
I'm saving.
You could also click the Let's Save button to let your team know that you think that they should all save that round. Very, very, very useful tool. And you can even do the same when it comes to the map. It's just much like League of Legends Clean, where you can ping that you're going somewhere you need help.
I'm on my way. Here.
You can ping all over the maps.
Here.
Just everywhere you can leave pings, and people will see where they're at, because, you know, they show up on the map when they're rotating around. Another thing to go through, preference, I suppose. The map does rotate automatically. You can turn that off in the settings. A lot of people didn't know that, but you can make it so the map doesn't rotate, and it is just a static image in the left corner that you can pay attention to. Knifing is pretty much the same, just as CSGO. Left click is super fast, little damage. Right click, kind of slower, but it does the more damage, where it's 2 knives with the right click will be the kill. But I believe that does, for now, almost cover the weapons, so I will get into what I think is the optimal shooting style for Valorant. Much like other FPSs, you want to try to keep your crosshair as center as you possibly can. I know for a lot of people this is literally just basic shooting, and I understand, but there are people who still will look down and then have to look up when someone turns a corner, and just because of that they'll lose, because for one, they're not even able to react. Like, I don't care how quick you can flick, it's just not optimal to do that. You want to try to obviously keep it head level, which is usually just about right here, maybe a little bit lower, but even then, you know, if you're shooting, chances are your recoil is going to go into their head and get the headshot anyways. Another thing I've noticed in this game is crouch shotting is much more accurate and reliable than just hip firing. A lot of the times, if someone's turning a corner, they will just stand like a strafe spray. It's not optimal to do because your recoil just goes everywhere. So if you're going against somebody, a lot of the times you can crouch and shoot, crouch and tap, or crouch and spray, and you'll have a much better chance of actually winning that trade with them, because they just have no idea what they're doing and their bullets are flying over your head because you're crouched. And the hit markers on the head in this game are very true to model. There's no hitting somebody right above the shoulder and it counts as a headshot. Like, you are hitting their head. If you get a headshot, you hit them in the head. It is not bigger than it seems. It is exactly what it looks like. So that is why the next thing I will bring up is the shooting style. I didn't transition very well coming from playing a bunch of Call of Duty the last couple months, which I'm sure some people can relate, where you take guns like that and you can just spray like all over the place. Obviously, if you're more FPS experienced, you can learn the different spray patterns. Your spray won't be that bad, but it's still not as optimal as taking your time and just tapping them in the head. I promise you, 9 times out of 10, you will win the trade that you just tap over spraying. I've had it happen to me because I did the same thing, where I would crouch, spray somebody, and they would hit me one time, just one tap, and I would die. It happens. That is very much how this game is meant to be played. And for those of you that might struggle with that, the best way to do it is just use a lot of time on the Guardian, because as I showed earlier, the gun is only one tap. This is the perfect gun to learn Valorant with. Another thing to go over is the ADSing. ADSing on this gun is very much still the same. It's not like the Bulldog, where if you ADS, it becomes a burst. Though it's not bad, the hip fire on the Bulldog isn't as good as the actual ADSing. But when you ADS with guns like the Vandal, the spray is there, but as I said, spraying is a lot like gambling, where you don't want to do it too much and just hope to get a lucky shot. I don't care how good you are, I never think that spraying will be better than just taking your time and one tapping. A lot of these guns don't do that much damage unless it's a headshot. Like, if you're taking 39 to the body and they're missing a couple shots, maybe a couple shots hit your leg, by the time you hit that one headshot, they're already dead. Like, you're getting way better shots by just one tapping than taking your time, spraying, panicking all over the place. It doesn't work that well. Another thing, ADSing in this game, it doesn't feel the greatest. It feels much more accurate to hip fire, even when someone is super far away. Even though you can ADS in just one tap, hip firing for some reason feels more accurate to just tap and strafe when you're shooting. You can technically still ADS if you plan on one tapping, but a lot of people have a bad habit of the Call of Duty, which is where, if they're turning a corner on somebody instead of hip firing, or there's someone just right over there, they'll just ADS. At that point, you might as well crouch shoot. There's no point in actual ADSing, because sometimes the bullets are wonky, they'll go a little bit left. I don't ADS very often, if ever at all. The only time I think I do ADS is when I use the Guardian, because it gives you that range. It doesn't change the gun's recoil at all because it's straight single shot. Another time is when you use the Odin, because even when you ADS with the Odin, the spray is very much just centered right there. Those are the only guns that I really feel like you can ADS and it'll actually be useful. I believe that covers all of that I have, in my opinion, for the shooting style of Valorant. If you have any questions, make sure to leave them in the comments below. Message, reach out to me, let me know if there's any other things that I didn't cover or missed or you have questions about. Appreciate you guys stopping by, watching the video, and I'll have some more content coming soon with the agents. So stay tuned for that. My first one will be Sage, and that'll be coming right up.